This is Empty the Bench with Tom Albano.
But you gotta have the pre-game show to the pre-game show. You gotta have the pre-game show to the pre-game show. Then you gotta have the pre-game show to the pre-game show. Then you gotta have the pre-game show to the game. And then you gotta have the game, and then you gotta have the post-game show. And then you gotta have the post-game show. And then you gotta have the post-game show.
Nick Morgasen.
People think that the Nets are just going to go out there and say, I'm going to give up Kevin Durant and I'm going to take these two guys back. It doesn't work like that. Until people who say they're phony NBA fans, who say they understand how this stuff works, don't talk.
Empty the Bench starts now.
Go out and prove to me if you want me to be a Jet fan and remain a Jet fan. Go out and get a quarterback. And I swear if I hear the...
Nick.
What?
R-E-L-A.
Shut up! Shut up!
Wait, Nick, you want me to shut up? We just started the episode.
It's going to be one of those type of episodes. I just warn you in advance. And MLB's making headlines early. That's dangerous. Welcome to episode 172, right? 172 of Empty the Bench on the Empty the Bench podcast network. Albano, Nick Morgasen. Make sure you follow us across social media at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/ETB Network. Follow us across the Empty the Bench network at ETB Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. ETBpodcast.com, our new website. Check out all our blogs and all the latest news that's coming up with the network. A lot of stuff coming, new stuff coming as well. All right. We have a lot to get into this week. We will give you some analysis on the Super Bowl 57, everything from the game to halftime, to commercials, and so on. So we'll break that all down. Derek Carr released by the Raiders. Again, that was all semantics. We all knew that was going to happen. The Jets checked in with Aaron Rodgers, and as you heard in that prepared intro, you heard my reaction of what I thought about that whole situation.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait, we're talking about Aaron Rodgers already?
R-E-L-A-X.
Shut up!
We got a very interesting story from MLB that's actually been developing as of late over the last day or two about Diamond Sports, a company that is partially created by Sinclair Broadcasting Group. Sinclair, obviously, over the last year or so, has been having some issues with its finances, and now Diamond Sports is preparing for bankruptcy, and that's going to affect the Bally Sports regional networks, which affect, conveniently, 14 MLB teams as the season is a little more than a month away.
I mean, we started to talk about this last week with the NBA, with their lockout situation possibly looming, and that they're going to lose 16 of their local teams' rights. Now, Tom has a list we'll get into when we get to that story of basically all the teams that are going to be affected, not just baseball either. The NBA, NHL, WNBA, everything is affected. So it's not just MLB. It just happens to be that MLB just knows how to shit on itself. Thanks, Rob Manfred, already.
Oh, speaking of Rob Manfred, the Manfred Man is here to stay.
Oh, yeah. If you listened to Game On earlier this week, Johnny Montalbano went off on the whole rules changes, and now you can't even put a position player in to pitch. Like, they're telling you can't do that anymore. Yeah, that's part of the rule. Yeah, they're saying that there's stipulations now that there's only certain situations you're allowed to put a position player in to pitch. So that's part of it. Then you have the pitch clock.
You're killing me, Manfred. You're killing me.
Let me just clarify one thing, though, that Johnny said also, that if you're designated a two-way player, it doesn't affect you. But
of course, because we can't affect our Shohei Ohtani now, can't we?
Even though we don't know how to market him correctly.
Well, that's neither here or there. By the way, I wish we actually spent longer on this because, Nick, last week's episode got ruined before it even aired. hours before it even aired. 14 hours exactly before it even aired, thanks to a 1:15 a.m. news dump that announced that, oh, as you said on the show, Kevin Durant's never getting traded. Well, Kevin Durant just got traded.
Yeah, the irony of that quote right there. Now, excuse me, to go behind the curtain a little bit again, which I like to do from time to time. Thank God I was awake at 1:15 a.m. Eastern time when that news broke.
Good thing one of us was awake, because I remember waking up the next morning and just like conveniently going about my morning routine as I'm getting ready for work, and then just as I'm in the bathroom, just getting out of the shower, taking a phone, like, oh.
Wait, was it from all the messages I was putting around, or did you just see it?
No, it was I forget if it was Twitter or if it was it might have been Forbes or something. It said breaking: Kevin Durant traded to Nets.
I was literally sitting at my computer getting ready to actually go to sleep early. I know that's a foreign word in my vocabulary. I know.
Same.
So I look at the clock. I'm like, oh, it's 1:15. Or it was a little before 1:15. I was done. I said, I'm gonna go catch an early sleep. And then Nico, who's our head of social media for the network, messages me and says, go on Twitter. And I'm like, well, I have Twitter open. I don't see anything. And then all of a sudden I start scrolling and it's Woj and them saying Kevin Durant has just been traded to the Suns. And I'm like,
and I love all of you out there, but when I work the next morning, I'm not getting up at 1:15 when I've already gone off the treatment.
That screwed my whole night. I was like, I'm gonna get to go to bed early. I'm gonna be great next day. I hated life after that.
Gary Payton also had an interesting situation that put his trade up in the air. 14 NBA trade.
It went through.
Yeah.
But it was interesting up until the Saturday deadline after the trade deadline. Because the rules are, and again, I'm going to have to explain rules to people because they don't understand it. Like I had to last week when it came to salaries. You can't, once a deal is agreed to and the deadline passed, you can't change any part of the deal. You either have to make the deal work or you could collapse the whole deal, which Golden State had the right to do. They chose not to collapse the deal and they made the deal go through.
And then we've got the situation with New Mexico State, which I feel really sad that we had to put down at the bottom of our list. But I guess that's the nature of us not covering college sports much on this show.
It's not even that. It's just there are many headlines in the same week for a change. We just came off Super Bowl, which we'll get to.
Right, it's kind of sad. Super Bowl is the lead story. It's obviously going to be the top story. It's the story of the sports world. But meanwhile, we've got all these headlines with Diamond Sports and Bally Sports collapsing, the Nets trading Durant, which actually happened before the Super Bowl. But since we're a weekly show, we didn't get to talk about last week.
God damn it, Kevin Durant, your fault.
All right, let's just jump into it. So let's talk about Super Bowl very briefly. The Kansas City Chiefs are your Super Bowl champions for the second time in 4 seasons. Patrick Mahomes has a ring. And here's the very base premise of this. If you were to take anything from my thoughts about this, the commercials were, as the kids would say, mid.
You're right.
Rihanna, I liked her music.
I'm a huge fan of the Rihanna's music, by the way.
The show itself was very I don't know if I want to say mid for that. I'll just say vanilla.
Well, did you see the video someone made of the Pokemon trainer music and her like being raised on the platforms with the dancers on the other platform?
Which, by the way, did you see the video that one of the dancers nearly fell off?
Yes. And I made a YouTube short about Rihanna stupidly product placement, her own product, right before she took the microphone with the makeup, her Fenty product line.
I'm not surprised. I mean, it's technically her show.
But come on, man. Like, it's a show. It's not meant to promote your shit. The show was a 0 to me. A 0.
That's harsh.
It was bad. There was nothing entertaining about it. Tell me one thing that was entertaining about the show.
The music?
Okay, the music was fun, but usually you have a collaboration with someone. No one came out. No one. I was expecting like Eminem would have been cool because they did a song together.
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z would have been great. Calvin Harris would have been great.
Let's face it. I don't know, for as great as Rihanna did with her thing, I don't know if anything was going to be last year's halftime show where you had all those old school hip hop legends.
Well, we're forgetting one thing as well. Did you know she was pregnant while she was doing the show?
Did not.
Yeah, she was pregnant. She was actually doing the show pregnant.
I was thinking, and I think several people are on the same lines of me, that she was going to announce a tour. Like the whole
She
point of
did.
the show was to announce a tour. Oh, she did.
She already announced the tour before the halftime show. Remember, when people do the halftime show, it's not an accident. Think about it. Usually they're out promoting an album or they're out promoting a tour. Usually.
Well, you know how much money people make for the halftime show, right?
Zero.
Nothing.
Zero. Yeah.
They do it for publicity, right?
Apple Music sponsored the halftime show. I was talking to Nico because we were watching this, and he said, "Wow, the first year that Pepsi isn't sponsoring the halftime show, and we don't get all the pop-up circumstance like we used to." And I'm like, "Wow, that's interesting. I actually agree with it."
Well, we'll see in future Apple halftime shows. See how the pomp and circumstance, if it comes back or not.
I think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be bigger next year because the Super Bowl's in Vegas.
That's true. I honestly could see it.
Because remember, they're going to be in Vegas. They're going to be in the casinos. Like everything is going to be there.
I had actually just talked with Zan Bedo, my co-host on MMA Outsiders every Wednesday, 9 a.m. That basically the UFC, you could very well see the UFC having a card the night before the Super Bowl like they did this year, but putting it in Vegas just because I feel like with the Super Bowl in Vegas, they put it out that whole weekend, that whole Super Bowl week is probably going to. If you think a normal Super Bowl week is crazy, a Super Bowl week in Vegas is going to be ballistic.
I'll tell you right now, with all the sports books being down there, all the casinos, all the entertainment that's down in Vegas on the strips everywhere, and that's going to be insane. But we still have a year before that comes up. But to get back to this, go ahead.
We just had a game, and granted, as I was saying, so commercials were mid. Rihanna's halftime show. I like the music, but very vanilla, everything else. But the game itself, I think, will go down. I think I even said this during the ETB Minute as a Super Bowl classic. I think this was one of the better, if not the best, one of the best kinds of Super Bowl matchups that we've seen.
Yeah, the game was great. I think, by the way, I was the closest score to the outcome because the score was 38-35. I said 40-33, and I said 70 plus points were going to be scored.
35. Yeah, 38-35. That would be 73.
So, and people were looking at me funny. Even my brother and other people were looking at me like, "You think it's going to be a high scoring game? Most Super Bowls are." And technically, he's right. Most Super Bowls are not high scoring, but these were two high flying offenses, though.
I was going to say we've never had a Super Bowl until now that had Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Well, Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown.
Now, and by the way, Juju Smith-Schuster needs to shut the fuck up on Twitter, like in the worst way, shape, or form.
I mean, he's got the bragging rights, yes, but I think the Eagle players are right in that. Like,
no, honestly, but the tweet of him in the Eagle jersey.
I didn't see that one. All I saw was the Valentine's Day card with Bradbury after the controversial game-ending call.
But was that Bradbury? I don't know. I'm looking it up as we speak.
My thing was, Nick, that let's face it, Juju Smith-Schuster his career was revitalized because of Patrick Mahomes.
No
his
kidding.
Career had basically died in Pittsburgh, being as one of the, I forget which Eagles player called it, TikTok boy.
Yeah, I mean, he had a good game. He's not the reason they won. I would say that Mahomes and even Kelsey was the reason they won the game.
The offensive line.
Well, the offensive line helped, but I'm saying Kelsey made some sick catches during this game, like ones that you wouldn't. Well, I guess you could say expect him to catch.
Yeah, but
But
I think AJ Brown had the catch of the game though. Jalen Hurts just flinging it down. I think during the second quarter, and AJ Brown being the defense is just unbelievable.
well, what
I
about
can't
what about his performance himself? I mean, the 3 rushing touchdowns, which is a record for a quarterback of the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. I cannot. Like I said, Jalen Hurts. I bought into Jalen Hurts. I said that this year he was going to develop, and well, I think he even exceeded my own expectations.
No, he was great. I mean, if it wasn't for a penalty, which by the way, what people need to get their heads out of their asses, it was a clear holding penalty. And Bradbury came out after the game and admitted that he grabbed the jersey for the holding penalty. So people need to stop complaining.
I'm gonna go in a very different take. I understand why people are saying, oh, just let the game play out at that point. But my issue is it actually connects with something that Hank from Game On said in his ETV blog recap, top 5 reasons Chiefs won, whatever you want to call it. As much as you can look at that one penalty, the Eagles also at one point had a 10-point lead.
They blew a lead.
I'll say, I mean, it's not a 28-3 kind of blow, and it's against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, so we can't mock them for blowing a lead. But regardless, they had several opportunities. You can't just point to that one penalty, and it goes with saying when I was talking about the offensive line. I mean, Nick, every second half possession, the Chiefs scored.
They scored.
Every single one. If the Chiefs offensive line does not have an A+ performance during that second half, the Eagles are hoisting the Lombardi Trophy at the end.
Excuse me. Right. But I'm just getting frustrated because I see like LeBron James is on Twitter saying that that's not a hold. I'm seeing all these big celebrities, it's not a hold, and I'm hearing like all of sports radio, sports talk complaining that we got robbed, we got chipped, and they should let the player not call the penalty. Go back and slow the play down. He grabs the back of the jersey.
I mean, he admits it. As you said, he admits it after the game.
I mean, if he didn't think it was a penalty, then he wouldn't have admitted to it. Now, that doesn't mean it's not a penalty, but people need to just calm down. It happens. It's the whole reason you play the full game and you don't play the game on paper.
As one of your old head coaches, Herm Edwards, once said, you play to win the game.
It's true. You play the whole game until it's over, till there's 0 seconds left. And by the way, who was the running back on the Chiefs that went down?
Who ran for his life.
Well, was it him? Was he the one that went down before the end zone to preserve the clock? It was the backup.
No, it was. Yeah, hang on 1 second. Let me double check.
But that was a heck of a play to have the wherewithal to go down right before the end zone to take 40 seconds off.
Was that McKinnon?
Yeah, it was McKinnon. Yeah.
It might have been McKinnon.
McKinnon had the wherewithal to say, hey, I'm going to go down and take 40 seconds off the clock, when a lot of people were saying on Twitter, like, oh, he could have told his kids he scored a touchdown. Well, guess what? He could tell his kids he won a ring.
Yeah, he could tell his kids he won a ring, and he made one of the smartest decisions in the game, because it actually caused the Eagles, and then the penalty afterwards on Bradbury, the Eagles could only get off that one play at the end, which ended up being a desperation Hail Mary that ended up in an incomplete pass.
By the way, that was even though I knew they were not going to score, that was a dumb decision by Kansas City to squib a kick right there, in my opinion.
I don't know about that. I wouldn't call it dumb.
No, but I'm saying is they were giving them more room than they should have had. You got to kick that out of the back of the end zone, in my opinion.
Oh, by the way, speaking of Chiefs and running backs, Nick. So Melvin Gordon,
he got a ring.
He got a ring. He basically had just said at one point. He had just said on forget where. He said basically, I just got carried to a Super Bowl ring, and he doesn't care. So think about this. He goes from the Broncos, where he's the lead running back, loses this position to Javonte Williams, gets it back because Javonte Williams goes down with injury because he was one of 13 or 14 Broncos who went on the IR this season. Melvin Gordon has a case of the fumbles, gets released, goes to KC, does nothing, and he wins a Super Bowl ring. The only thing I have to say about that, Nick, Broncos country, let's ride.
I mean, it's so true. I think it has to do with that weird percentages thing, how long you were with the team for the season. I think it's what matters. It's like the playoff shares in MLB. Like it's how long you were there for.
Well, he rode the bench for at least half the season, and he didn't need to do much, if anything at all, and he gets a Super Bowl ring out of it. I mean, that man is living the life now.
Hey, you could say you're a Super Bowl champion.
Yeah. And Patrick Mahomes, which, by the way, question.
One leg.
I was going to say, would you put that, because I know with Fox was making the comparison, Kurt Schilling with the bloody sock. I don't think they said MJ and the flu gave it MJ. You would put this performance up there with those, would you?
No. Hell no. I mean, I think the performance in the conference game was better when he could barely move than the Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. He was not 100%, but Jalen Hurts wasn't 100% healthy either. Now, the joke that my brother made at halftime was, what was the size of the tranquilizer they had to give Patrick Mahomes to make it consecutive?
It wasn't a tranquilizer. I'm about to make an old school movie reference. You ever seen The Karate Kid?
Yes.
Mr. Miyagi?
Yes.
Put that ankle back in place. Let's just put it that way.
That's probably what they did, to be honest. No, his performance was great. He definitely deserved the MVP. He's got 2 Super Bowls in 3 appearances. He's got 5 conference championship games. You have to put him in the Hall of Fame already, and he's 27, 28 years old. I mean, this man's on fire.
He is on fire. He is having the hell of a start to a career like anything we've ever seen. Oh, and Andy Reid. I mean, 2 Super Bowl rings already at
Canton.
Yeah. He has definitely worn off the Reid blown lead curse that he's had ever since his Philadelphia days.
No, that goes to Mike McCarthy now. But no, Andy Reid has been. I mean, by the way, did you see after when he got back? He's like, "Oh, I had a pizza and I had a salad. What happened to the 2 cheeseburgers?"
He'll have plenty of cheeseburgers in this week of celebration.
That's right. But Kansas City is, first of all, anyone who calls them a dynasty is nuts. They're not dynasty. They're not a dynasty. They've won.
Not yet.
Not yet.
If they win, if they pull a repeat, because they would be the first team since I think the Pats to repeat a Super Bowl. If they repeat this coming season, then yeah, I'll call them a dynasty.
I mean, to be fair, you have to consider them a favorite again going into next year.
Mm-hmm.
And they did this without Tyreek Hill.
That's the other thing. I mean, and I'm guilty of it. I thought that they were going to be in a bit of trouble without Tyreek Hill. And, well, Travis Kelce filled his shoes and filled the wide receiver 1 shoes.
I mean, I don't even know what our predictions were on KC when we did them in the...
I said, you're going to laugh, but I said that they weren't even going to make the conference championship. I thought they were going to go down in the divisional.
I think we all said they were going to make the playoffs. That wasn't a question because Patrick Mahomes can lead any team to the playoffs.
I thought, but let's also be fair. We also thought that, Nick, the AFC West was going to be a bit more of a juggernaut than it actually was, but the Raiders were a letdown. The Broncos, I mean... I only need to play that just to ensure you just to say what the Broncos were like. And then the Chargers, I think they were good. They could have been better if it wasn't for the fact they had Brandon Staley as their head coach.
Oh, I was going to say 2 letters, sum it up, T and S. That sounds about right. I don't know, but the Chiefs definitely deserve to win. They played hard in the second half.
The Eagles don't deserve to be knocked. It was a hell of a game.
Jalen Hurts was the Eagles' offense for the most part.
Like I said, if the Chiefs offensive line don't make the adjustments in the second half, if they only have an A- performance, the Eagles were winning that game.
I mean, if they don't score one possession, they're the winner. I mean, that's pretty much it. There's not much else you can really say. People are going to bitch about the penalty. It was a holding. If you go back and you slow it down, he clearly tugs the jersey.
And again, the game does not come down to one penalty.
Well, people are mad in the moment because it was a tie game, and it would have been fourth down if they don't commit that holding penalty, and it goes from being from a third and like mid to first down. I mean, well, that's what happens. I mean, I get what people are saying that. Well, it's a big game in the late moments. You don't. First of all, I hate that. I hate when people say that. You're telling the referees not to do their job then, all because of how big the game is. How does that make any sense? Can you tell me how that makes any sense?
No.
They're there to do a job. They're not there to represent a fan base. That's not their job. But so, speaking of what you said, Raiders.
Let me put it to you this way.
Yeah.
If they didn't call it, you would have had people moaning that the call was missed.
Yeah, you would have had Chiefs fans bitching. So
either way, they would have been screwed.
So, believe it or not, I think that's fun when you have a controversial call that ends a game. But it is what it is.
All right. A couple of NFL headlines we have to go into before we go into...
Speaking of Raiders...
Yeah. So, the saga of Derek Carr has finally come to an end. So, when we did the promo, we talked about how basically, he has refused. He had made a proclamation to the Raiders. I am not going to... Because he had a clause in his contract where he had to approve any trade. And he told them...
No trade.
Right. And there were rumors that they were considering flipping Carr over to New Orleans. And he basically went to them and said, you're not going to benefit, from anything, involving the end of my time here in Las Vegas.
Let me just clarify one thing, though. Even though that's right, the reason that news came out was because any team that wanted to trade had to designate that they were willing to take the money and make the what's the word I'm looking for? The proper pieces in place to make the trade. And the Saints were the only one who designated they were willing to make the trade at that point in time. So that's why the only reason we heard the Saints. And I think he actually made a good move, not getting away and being a free agent.
I mean, let's consider this. I don't blame him. Number one, right, free agency. He can pick wherever he wants. Two, let's consider this, Nick. Derek Carr, as I mentioned weeks ago, was he the greatest quarterback ever? No. Was he a decent quarterback that tried to constantly keep the Raiders in games and battling? I mean, yeah. And under Bisaccia, Carr and the Raiders ended up getting a small playoff bid. And then they moved to Josh McDaniels, and well... And I understand that there were these reports about how McDaniels was a little more, let's say, tough lovish, was a little more in his face. And I get maybe some athletes are a little coddled away from that. But Nick, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Who the bleep does Josh McDaniels think he is? Because he does not have the reputation of a great head coach.
First of all, he shouldn't be a head coach anymore. He should have been fired a long time ago. And the only reason he has a head coach is because he's under a certain person's coaching tree. That's the only reason why he has a head coach. And if I have to spit this out, Bill Belichick's coaching tree.
Yeah, I was going to try and find one of my sweatshirts on here, and I was just going to put the hood up.
But yes, that's the only reason why he's a head coach. I mean, just to go back, I forgot to mention this also. Did you see the headlines with Eric Bieniemy and all that situation going on also?
I mean, Nick, Eric Bieniemy was rumored for a head coaching job years ago, and nobody took him. And you know what? Honestly, it was for the better because Kansas City's doing a phenomenal job with him, and it's kind of stupid on teams who are passing up on Eric Bieniemy.
No, but I heard a report that apparently he's not happy being in Andy Reid's shadow, and he might go somewhere else.
Again, goes to what I said, what I just said. that some teams are stupid for not hiring him.
Now, apparently, like when back in the Colorado days, like he had some stuff that went down, and I get it, like because when he was young, when you're younger, you do stupid things. But he is a great coach, not good, great coach, and he keeps getting passed over. Now, I'm going to have to bring up the obvious thing first, which is why is he not getting the head coaching job? Is it a black thing? Is that why he's not getting a head coaching job?
I just don't understand how he doesn't have a head coaching job, but we've got Josh Fluky McDaniels in as head coach of the Raiders.
Go back to Hackett, who had a job.
Or Hackett. Well, Nick, here's again what I don't get with I just critical of the Raiders and critical of Davis. Was it Bisaccia? Was his name Bisaccia?
Pistachio,
Got
yeah.
you to the playoffs. You know, maybe he was just an interim coach, but because of what happened with Gruden, but he got you to the playoffs. Wouldn't you award him with a permanent head coaching position instead of hiring Josh McDaniels because he's some offensive genius? And I put that in air quotes.
I think I said it to you last week or 2 weeks ago about Steve Wilkes with the Panthers, that he got screwed because he took a team that was 6 or 7 games under 500 and got them all the way back. I mean, and basically they said, all right, Steve, you got the team better. We don't need you anymore. We're going to bring in Frank Reich, a guy who destroyed the Colts. But, he was the first quarterback of the franchise. Who cares? It's a problem. It is a big problem with black coaches that for some reason they do not get hired. And by the way, Rooney Rule be damned because it's doing nothing. It's doing nothing. Actually, let me take that back. Because the owners will say, well, we interview them, but we don't think they're qualified. BS. What do you mean they're not qualified? You're just saying that.
Or if we do hire them, it's only for a matter of trying to get the draft pick or whatever that is being offered by the Rooney.
And by the way, and I still think Roger Goodell is dumb to this day for that. Let's throw an incentive at these owners because these owners don't have enough draft picks and money and capital and power. Let's give them more.
So, anyways, my point being, good on Derek Carr to basically stick the middle finger to Josh McDaniels and the Raiders organization and say, no, screw you, release me. You don't have to deal with my money, but I want to actually be a free agent. Because guess what, Nick? Someone's going to pay him very handsomely to be a quarterback this season.
Right. And by the way, the Raiders are probably one of the dumbest run franchises right now in professional football. You sit a quarterback who's thrown 3,000 to 4,000 yards each over the past 2 seasons. You sit him down because you're just like, I'm done. We don't need your services anymore.
Well, there's the money situation, and apparently the Raiders are kind of a little screwed on money because of let's see, that contract that you gave to Josh McDaniels.
Well, or Jordy, not Jordy Nelson. Oh my God, why am I thinking that? Devontae Adams.
Well, you've already pissed off Devontae Adams. You brought Devontae Adams here because you were going to reunite Carr and Adams. Now, granted, maybe they underperformed, but you're just going to release Carr like that and say, okay, we're done, and piss him off. Oh, what's next? Are you actually going to let Josh Jacobs walk in free agency?
Probably. I mean, and now you have Devontae Adams, who probably was annoyed at the the Waste Management Open during the Super Bowl. Was basically went to a reporter and said, "Oh, I'm trying to get Aaron Rodgers to come here."
I mean,
it's not going to happen.
RELAX.
You know what? I'm not even ready for you yet. I'll let you know when I'm ready to get to you.
We'll talk about him in a second, and I know Devontae is advocating for Rodgers to join him over in Vegas, and I mean, Vegas was on his radar. Denver and Vegas were both on his radar. Was it 2022 when he had
during the draft?
Yeah. However, Nick, let me go back to the theory that I presented months ago. Now that Chicago has the number 1 overall pick, could you see a situation where maybe they offer up somebody like an Adams, should trade him to Chicago to be another weapon for Justin Fields, get the number 1 pick, and get their choice of was it Bryce Young and all those quarterbacks.
And I don't think the quarterback choices are that great coming out this year, to be honest, either. I mean, Stenson Bennett, but
not anymore.
Not anymore. True, you're right. But the quarterbacks are not great. I would trade if I were Chicago. I'd trade that pick and get me a weapon back.
I mean, you got C.J. Stroud. You've got Bryce Young. I think those are honestly your big two.
And there's really not much after that. So
Malik
it depends. But it depends. Are they going to stand behind Justin Fields?
I think they are. I think the thing is they got to get him some weapons. I think they got to get him some weapons and they got to get him some protection. So I could see them going lineman first pick probably if they want to keep it there.
I don't know. I'm leaning towards they might try to trade it for a weapon.
Obviously, if you're the Texans, you're praying that they use the pick and they use it on the lineman. That way, you still get your choice of quarterback at number 2.
But I think your theory is not too far off. If they went to Oakland and said, "Hey, we'll give you the first overall pick," Oakland could use all the help it possibly needs. I mean, oh my God, Vegas, Vegas. Oh my God. Well, you know why I said that? Because on Facebook, when you tag them, it still says Oakland Raiders. They didn't change it.
That's a Las Vegas Raiders account.
No, but there's another one that says Oakland Raiders, and that's also in there under the Facebook tag. Anyway, with Vegas, they could use all the help they could possibly need. And I mean, they need all the help falling out of the sky because their team is falling apart. So I would trade Devontae Adams to Chicago. Now, I know Chicago's not great now, but eventually, if you put Devontae Adams and Justin Fields together, that would be sick.
They've got the most cap room this offseason.
I mean, if you could somehow convince Devontae Adams to go there, then you will get other weapons. I mean, I know I said this for the Giants, but if you get Devontae Adams over to Chicago, I would also go and call for what's his name out of Arizona and DeAndre Hopkins and say, "Hey, we got Devontae Adams in Chicago. You want to come down here and be a number 2 or a 1B?"
And that's only a dream situation. If that happens, Nick, that would not even be fair.
Hey, I'm just saying, if you can make stuff happen, you make stuff happen. Chicago had great teams. What was the year they went to the Super Bowl? It was with Lovie Smith, right?
The 1980s.
No, they won a Super Bowl in the 2000s, didn't they?
They didn't win the Super Bowl. They made it to the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That was the year they lost to Payton and the Colts.
That's right. Okay, but they've shown that they can put the pieces together. No, right now, Justin Fields is not the quarterback of desire at the moment, but I don't know. Just to put a bow on this, I think Derek Carr, there's a couple of places he could end up. And Johnny did this in a minute. I agree with at least one of them. The Jets was one of them.
Jets is one.
Because they're desperate for a quarterback in the worst way. And if I hear Zach Wilson one more time.
No. Nick, I am a Giants fan, and I'm telling you, I do not want the Jets to have Zach Wilson, honestly. It was abysmal watching him this season. The
carousel of progress is up with Zach Wilson. And yes, I'm talking about the Disney ride because I got stuck in it for 25 minutes one time I was down at Disney. But
here's what I've got. I've got a PFF, Pro Football Focus. Their little I know, but their little list of like teams that will desperately need a quarterback. You got the Texans. Now you can put a stretch and remember that David Carr, Derek's brother, did play for the Texans as a quarterback.
I remember that.
But obviously, the Texans are going to go with one of the guys coming out of college as a way to, restart that organization. You've got the Colts and their quarterback carousel. I know everyone's saying Indianapolis is going to go young. I actually don't see it. I feel like they're going to try for the veteran quarterback one more time.
Irsay's going to make a dumbass mistake all over again.
I got that feeling. Carolina.
That's one of the teams that Johnny said. Carolina and the Jets.
Carolina. I know you got the Ravens, but I mean, I think they're still going to be, focused on trying to get Lamar to remain. And Nick, scary thought. I think they're so desperate for Lamar to remain that they're willing to go with Tyler Huntley if Lamar does a holdout.
I don't think Tyler Huntley's a bad quarterback. You and I both said that. We don't think he's a bad quarterback.
He's not Lamar.
He's not. Well, I would question with all the injuries if it's a lot closer battle than it once was. But we'll see.
Carolina, Jets are there. We've got a question about what's going to happen with Washington.
Washington's a dumpster fire. There's no way they're keeping Carson Wentz.
Honestly, just for the fact that they almost tried to trade for him, I think you got to put the Saints in the Carr quarterback.
But what's the value there? Alvin Kamara is a mess. He could be in jail for all we know, depending on the charges that come up against him.
Michael Thomas was not as good as his once was.
Well, Michael Thomas has been hurt, the last 3 seasons, at least missing a couple weeks. If I'm Derek Carr, I'm staying far away from the Saints. There's no value holding there. I mean, the Jets, and again, whether I'm a fan or not is a question at this point. But with the Jets, they have the defensive line. They have a Super Bowl caliber defense. I've said that for quite a while. Their offensive pieces, especially when Breece Hall comes back, I think that team's going to be even better. Garrett Wilson is turned into in my opinion, a number 1 wide receiver. They just need the quarterback piece. They don't have it. Zach Wilson can't lead a team. He can't do it. Maybe he could be a number 2 at best. Derek Carr could come in and throw the football, which Zach Wilson could not do. Derek Carr could air the ball out when necessary.
But, Nick, I got the feeling the Jets have another focus on their mind.
RELAX.
So this is one of those stories, Nick, that it could be nothing, it could be something. But the Jets have reportedly checked in with the Packers about the availability of Aaron Rodgers being traded to the Jets. Now, Nick, we have seen this song and dance before. A veteran quarterback in the twilight of his career heading over from the Packers to the Jets.
Now, there's 2 choices here. I'm trying to decide in my head which direction I want to take this. All right, we'll go this direction first.
I was going to ask you, ¿por qué no los dos? Just to
But yeah, this is all like a bunch of smoke and mirrors with a fire alarm going off. But why? Why would you do this? Brett Favre was a massive failure in a Jet uniform. So you're going to go back and now get the next hand-me-down from the Packers? Why?
In all fairness, like when we talk about veteran quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers is obviously a lot more successful than Carr. But I think the question also is going to be, with Rodgers, it has to be a trade. So what the hell are the Jets going to give up in order to get Rodgers?
$59 million.
Yeah, again, I'm nervous about what the Jets would have to trade to get him.
That's all you're going to hear. That's a lot of money. I don't know. What's the cap number? Do we know what the cap number is?
The NFL had just announced it. Let me double check.
But, excuse me. I would say that's got to be like a third of the cap, if I'm not mistaken. Excuse me. But go out and just get Derek Carr. Derek Carr is going to be more of the future. Aaron Rodgers, you'd be lucky if you get 2 years out of.
$224.8 million is going to be the cap.
So it's like a fourth. It's like a fourth of the... That's still a lot of money, a fourth of the cap. Please don't do it, for the love of God. As the 0.001% fandom I have right now with the Jets is lingering over that cliff that I'm hanging over right now. If you want me to just run for good, then go ahead and go get Aaron Rodgers. I dare you, Jets. Go out and get Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, there's an "It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia" style meme coming very soon. You know it.
Great, great.
Your fandom is hanging on by a thread, and once you sign Aaron Rodgers, it's gonna snap. You're gonna fall, and all you're gonna say is,
"Oh my God!"
Wow. But this whole situation is bonkers. I can't take it. It's so frustrating to me. Why can't the Jets go out and build a team? You built a young defense. Sauce Gardner was NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. Also, who was the Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Garrett Wilson. Third time in NFL history, a team has had both the Offensive and Defensive Rookie of the Year.
You swept the Rookie of the Year awards.
Plus, Breece Hall was an early nominee before his season-ending injury. You've got a good young group on the rise.
When he comes back, it's only going to be more dangerous when he's playing. I mean, like, just stay away from Aaron Rodgers, please. You don't need the ego. We don't need to. He's going to probably end up on girlfriend number 100 by the time he's with the Jets.
Is it going to be another witch?
Ding dong, the witch is dead.
Is he gonna? Trying to think. Is he going to? He's gonna say that he's going to immunize the Jets from losing.
Great! I can't wait. We'll just have more feet pics out of Aaron Rodgers once he comes to New York.
He's gonna open an OnlyFans.
But it can't be a cheesehead account anymore. We'd have to. I don't know what we call it. Aaron Rodgers taking flight. I don't know.
Aaron Rodgers no. I kind of like what I've got going right now. Hold on a minute. No. We got to do this right.
Oh no!
We need the Jets colors, and we need the music.
This team is such a joke.
I mean, you're already halfway through repeating the Broncos theme. Now you got Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator.
As I said, they were a day late and $1 short when they decided, hey, we're going to bring Nathaniel Hackett in, and we're going to bring him in because we think Aaron Rodgers is going to come in. And by the way, I know, oh my God, why am I forgetting the head coach's name all of a sudden? Because Robert Saleh basically said, oh, we didn't bring Nathaniel Hackett for Aaron Rodgers. Wrong!
There you go.
I mean, seriously, how much are you going to lie to the public and say you didn't do that because you're hoping Aaron Rodgers doesn't come in?
Is Nick going to lose his Jets fandom? I say yes.
We all know Aaron Rodgers is going to be the starting quarterback of this franchise. And when that happens, there's going to be a massive explosive video that comes out, whether it's a separate video or it's going to be on an episode, depending on when that falls.
RELAX.
Shut up!
You know what? I have a way we can make this a real disaster.
RELAX.
Ah!
X R E
Ah!
A X
Oh, shit.
R E
Oh,
L
shit.
A X.
I almost fell off my chair.
That's a torture that's banned by the Geneva Convention.
Oh, no, that was the Aaron Rodgers god watching above me saying, I see you, Zep. Ugh. Oh, God. All right.
Oh, my God. Heck. Oh. But wait a minute, Nick. You can't say that. You can't say that joke. That's not Bailey Zapp.
He's not coming back. We don't have to worry about that anymore.
I see you, Zapp. That's Bill Belichick's guy. All right. Nick, I have a way to cheer you up. You want to shit on Rob Manfred?
Yes! Wait a minute. It's February 16th. What the heck?
Pitchers and catchers just reported, Nick. Baseball is on its way.
Wait a minute. It's too early to shit on Rob Manfred.
Nick, it's never too early. It's never too early. It's never too late. It is what it is. Let's talk about this story because this sounds like a weird story, but it could have, let's say, some potential impacts, some potential major impacts.
And you thought there was alarms now. sound the alarms. This is going to be a good one. So when you see this episode, this is going to be the story to watch because Tom and I went through this quite a bit over the last couple of days, trying to figure out what the heck is going on with the Diamond Sports Group, which owns the Bally Media, Bally Regional Networks.
Diamond Sports, by the way, a project of the very infamous Sinclair Broadcasting Group, which has had its own fair share of problems over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and so there's an impending bankruptcy going on, and this is not now. Obviously, it came out with baseball because they have more to do with baseball than a lot of the other sports. But we started to talk about this last week with the NBA, where they had 16 teams that were involved in regional sports networks.
Yeah,
and the NBA
has 14.
Oh, you're right. And the NBA has an impending lockout coming, possibly. So if they don't get their money, then you're going to lose 16 teams there. For here, they're talking about 14 teams?
Yes, 14 teams. So, the financial... I'll read the opening paragraphs from the ESPN story on this. The financially troubled parent company of regional sports networks that own the broadcast rights to 42 U.S. professional sports teams skipped about $140 million in interest payments that were due yesterday. The missed payments by Diamond Sports Group started a 30-day grace period that could be the prelude to a bankruptcy filing, which could lead to major changes in how televised games are made available to viewers. Diamond is a subsidiary of Sinclair and owns 19 Bally Sports regional networks, which broadcast games of 14 MLB teams, 16 NBA teams, and 12 NHL teams. Sinclair actually got Bally Sports. Originally, Bally Sports was a Disney product. It was Disney's regional sports networks. And then when Fox Sports sold off all the Fox Sports regional networks,
they had to spin it off because they didn't have a choice.
Yeah, because they couldn't hold two regional sports network properties, essentially. So
You know what, though? They're probably thinking they're lucky stars. They made that sale.
Well, Bally isn't, but maybe Disney. I mean, maybe Disney is.
Yeah, because they're not dealing with all the debt.
Correct. So here are the 14 networks and MLB teams that are going to be affected by this. Bally Sports Arizona, which broadcasts the Diamondbacks. Bally Sports Detroit, which broadcasts the Tigers. Bally Sports Florida, which broadcasts the Marlins. Bally Sports Great Lakes, which broadcasts the Guardians. Bally Sports Kansas City for the Royals. Bally Sports Midwest. The most significant team, I think, Nick, the St. Louis Cardinals. Bally Sports North for the Twins. Bally Sports Ohio for the Reds. Bally Sports San Diego for the Padres. Actually, that's another significant team. Bally Sports SoCal for the Angels. Los Angeles side.
That's the biggest market.
Yeah. Bally Sports South, the Atlanta Braves, one of the best teams in baseball right now.
That's a problem.
Southeast. Bally Sports Southwest for the Rangers. Bally Sports Sun for the Rays. The Angels again for Bally Sports West, and Bally Sports Wisconsin, which does the Brewers. But Nick, that's only MLB teams. Do you want to talk about the baseball focus right now, or should I name off the other teams we've got?
Well, let's talk about baseball first, because there's a lot going on here. And we've talked about a lot of negative headlines. The MLB, the spring training pitchers and catchers have just barely reported, and we're already having negative issues with baseball again. I can't take this. We're already having age issues, and I can't do this anymore.
Nick, I mean, granted, not all of this I can say is baseball's fault. Unfortunately, Sinclair has just not been an extraordinary group.
Okay, but you could say that about anybody. We're having issues with money across media.
I think if you want to complain about Manfred about something, you can complain about him about some of the responses that he has made in regard to this controversy.
What about the blackout issues that he keeps talking about?
I mean,
drop the freaking blackouts already.
I mean, all you have to do is go listen to any of the Game On episodes of Johnny, and he can tell you everything. He could give you a whole 45-minute rant about blackouts.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at some of this stuff. So, Diamond Sports Group, the subsidiary of Sinclair, announced Wednesday that they would skip February's $140 million interest only payment. That's not even the principal. That's just the interest money. Entering into a 30-day grace period, which will probably lead to bankruptcy filing. And like you said, 14 teams. Manfred spoke out and he said, quote, obviously we want all of our broadcast partners to be successful. We don't want them to have financial difficulties, and we've been spending a lot of time and effort trying to work with them, figure out where they are. Obviously, our first choice would be that Diamond pay the clubs what they're contractually obligated to pay them. But because I guess I'm a contingency planner by nature, we are prepared no matter what happens with respect to Diamond to make sure the games are available to fans in their local markets.
And I mean, now that the deadline has essentially passed, well, first of all, I'd say I know you emphasize the local markets. Before we get there, first of all, because the deadline has passed, now MLB is and the teams are basically within their right to say, okay, we're not getting paid, then
Well, yeah, the contracts get ripped up. Yeah.
yeah, we can go or negotiate with other companies.
But the problem is you're running into issues because these companies are laying off all these people. Look at Disney. Disney just laid off 7,000 employees.
Mm-hmm.
So you really think like these affiliates of all these companies are picking up extra money with teams? No, they're not.
I think what's going to be interesting, Nick, is Manfred's plan is essentially to go directly to the providers themselves. So your Comcast, your Xfinities, your DirecTVs, and then it'll be broadcast locally in that way. I mean, I don't know how you're going to do that.
What about your broadcasting teams, though?
Well, supposedly everything will be done through. It sounded like it's going to be done through MLB, like MLB Advanced Media,
which means that markets are not going to matter anymore. That money's not going to matter anymore. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, which means, I guess, if you're somebody like Michael K, Paul Neal, anybody on the Yes or SNY, and you're not affected with Bally Sports, you're not affiliated with Bally Sports. Good. I mean, good on you. If you're affiliated with Bally Sports, if you commentate a Major League Baseball games, or you're affiliated with one of these Bally Sports channels that just went through, you might be SOL.
Well, so here's the weird thing. If you look at today's structure of networks that games are on, many decades ago, it used to be like your network was locally owned. Now, so like, I'll take the example for us here in New York. Yes Network technically is partially owned by Amazon and Fox Sports.
Mm-hmm.
So technically they have networks that can pay the bill. SNY, I think, is NBC Universal, if I'm not mistaken. I
believe you're right. Last I checked, it was.
So they're doing all right for the most part. So every local network is owned by a national network now, or ownership.
I mean, that's the state of media over the last decade or two. The big conglomerates owning basically everything.
Everyone is buying everybody now. I mean, I hate to say this from the audio perspective end, but look at what iHeart's been going through with the massive debt they've been through. It's like $20 million. It's company debt. I mean, you're seeing these companies gobble up one another because they can't afford to stay in business by themselves anymore. And that's what's kind of happening here. Now, unfortunately, Disney was the beneficiary of doing business. And because they took over the Fox RSNs, they had to sell off Bally, and they probably got a decent deal for Bally. But then Sinclair got hit with the bill. And supposedly they're $1.2 billion in debt as of the third quarter of 2022.
Well, I was going to say Sinclair doesn't exactly have the greatest of finances before all this. So
I was very surprised when that deal came out. Like, I know they had to sell it, Disney, but I didn't think someone was actually going to take it over. I don't know. It's funny.
So MLB, before we continue on with the MLB stuff, MLB is not the only league that's going to have to deal with this. As we mentioned, 16 NBA teams, half the NBA league, and 12 of the 32 NHL teams. So, for instance, Bally Sports Arizona doesn't just do the Diamondbacks. They do the Suns, the Phoenix Suns. They do the Arizona Coyotes and the Phoenix Mercury of the WNBA. So, just going through the list, I'm not going to read off every single channel, but
well, the ones that you said to me that stood out before we started were Arizona and Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit, because they do almost everything. Detroit does the Tigers, the Pistons, the Red Wings, even broadcast a couple of Lions games. Orlando Magic, Florida Panthers, Indiana Fever, Indiana Pacers, the St. Louis Blues, New Orleans Pelicans, the Timberwolves, Wild, Lynx, a couple of Vikings games. But obviously, if Bally Sports, anytime we mention NFL, they're the secondary.
Yeah, obviously, yes.
Yeah, Sox, they are the primary. So the NFL teams aren't going to be affected too much. Ohio, the Cavaliers, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the OKC Thunder, the Clippers, Ducks, Kings, the Hurricanes, the Predators, Hawks. One of the channels that the Braves are broadcast on also has the Hawks, Hornets, and Grizzlies, and the Atlanta Dream.
That's crazy.
The Mavs and Spurs are both on Bally Sports Southwest, along with the Stars. The Heat, the Lightning, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the 3-time Eastern Conference champions, are going to be running into an issue with Bally Sports. This is not good. The Bucks, Nick, with Giannis Antetokounmpo, are going to run into an issue. This is bad.
This is bad, but again, like the point you made, you can't blame Rob Manfred for this 100%. You can't blame a commissioner from leagues for this. This has to do with finances, but at the same time, I could blame Rob Manfred for one thing, which is the digital footprint.
So basically, he's talking about streaming as an alternate, which, Nick, is not technically a bad idea. But when your age group, your target audience appears to be 65 to death.
Yes, the line I pull out every single time we talk about the demographic. 65 to death! Our grandparents are the ones that watch baseball, not us.
I get what Rob is trying to do. What Rob is trying to, hey, we're streaming now. We're hello, fellow kids. We're cool now.
You're not cool.
Except you've made everything about the game so infuriating.
No, you know what? You know what, Rob?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
You've turned. You're not getting the attention and attraction of the younger audience, and you're turning against your older audience. So it goes back to my question, Nick. Who's your audience here, Rob?
65 to death. That's your audience. Unfortunately.
I think I wish I had a tumbleweed sound effect because nobody.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, actually, to be honest, I would say death to death because no one really watches baseball anymore. And that whole thing you were talking about with Apple also, that they're getting rid of Katie Nolan, and which you knew I at the beginning I didn't like that she was doing baseball because she didn't really do play-by-play stuff or color commentators. I actually think she turned out to be really good at what she did.
Yeah,
but
Nolan and Newman are not gonna be returning.
So no one wants to spend money anymore on broadcasting. That's part of the problem. They don't want to spend money on the rights. The rights are so expensive that the networks don't want to pay the money.
And I don't know how it's going to work, Nick, with baseball. And, if he does streaming about the local specifications, especially if it's done through MLB, MLB Advanced Media, it's a troubling situation.
It's going to be a nightmare because think about all the streaming that already happens with all the games. Now they're going to have to pull it all in-house. And again, I'm going to say what I said before, the broadcasting teams, unless they're going to do the cheap thing and basically just run the feed of the game. And that's it.
Kind of like what they were doing with the COVID, basically.
Where basically, all right, you watch the game, whatever happens, happens.
Where it's like where if you remember, Nick, what I was referring to is like all the away team broadcasts were basically through MLB.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, or they were doing the broadcast from their house, essentially, which, oof. But Just looking at, I just wanted to point out another number also with Diamond Sports Group. So when they bought it from Disney, or when Sinclair through Diamond Sports Group purchased the RSNs from Fox, it was for $10.6 billion in 2019. Okay, think about that number. And then the company initially borrowed more than $8 billion to make the purchase. Borrowed.
Again, I wish I had the cash register reverse sound effect.
And now they're saying that it hasn't come close to generating the amount of revenue anticipated. Gee, I wonder why. Because no one cares about baseball anymore. No one cares. I mean, the NBA you can watch, the NFL you can watch, the NHL, those three are watchable. MLB is not.
I was going to say, I mean, baseball just doesn't have the kind of audience. And Nick, I think it's actually just as bad of a situation for the NBA and the NHL, and you could argue worse because MLB, the season's just starting up. It's 162 games. We got plenty of season. Nick, the NBA and NFL, it's go time. I mean, the NBA and NFL, NBA and NHL, it's go time. I mean, NBA is about to have its All-Star weekend. We're closing in for the NBA and NHL in the last month and a half of the seasons, and then we're going into playoff time. This is not a time we can afford fans to lose access to their teams.
I mean, what it's going to go to show, and the commissioners are going to say this, and I'm not looking... Well, it might actually be better because you get more games on a national basis. You're going to get more games on a national basis. That's what's going to happen. Now, I don't know. That's going to be tougher. They're going to start treating national like local, where you're going to have crews. You're going to have more crews within the national platform, like they do with the NFL, with the Fox teams.
I guess you're going to have some split broadcasts where, like say if you're watching MLB Network or Fox, or they say, okay, we're going to take you out to here, but those of you in this market, or anything, you're going to stay with us, and then we'll take you to another game. Kind of like what the NFL sometimes does, where it's like A game, B game, C game.
Yeah. You also had, what was it on Fox? MLB Whip Around was where they took you to different games, or like Red Zone. They take you to, like, I like Red Zone, and part of that might be our short attention spans that we don't want to watch a game.
True. I just think that it's kind of infuriating that Rob is still talking about potential blackouts and such. Meanwhile, the NFL is about to make NFL Sunday Ticket available on YouTube TV. Now, granted, that's still technology and such, but you know what? I think people are, more going to tune into YouTube than they are to Amazon or a streaming platform. At least the older people, because at least older people know at least what YouTube is and know. Okay, let me put it this way. They know what YouTube is. Maybe they know how to log on to. But you know what? You don't need a satellite dish anymore for Sunday Ticket. And the only blackouts, Nick, are traditional NFL rules where kind of actually makes sense that if you're going to watch Giants versus Eagles, you got to turn on Fox, which, you know what? I think regardless of your age, everyone knows how to turn on a TV and turn on to channel, say, 5 here in the New York area.
I would hope so. I mean, but
my point is that the NFL is making itself more available to customers with the out of market stuff.
So the NFL is going the right direction. MLB is going the wrong direction, where they're just not able to keep the content on, whether it's TV or if it's digital or whatever it is. But just some other numbers which are staggering. Mm-hmm. So I said $1.2 billion in debt. The company for Sinclair. The company pays somewhere in the neighborhood of $2 billion in rights fees on an annual basis, and made debt payments of about $415 million in the first 9 months of 2022. What does that tell you? That tells you they never had the money. They made a purchase and basically said, all right, we're going to borrow that $8 billion because we think we're going to make $12 to $13 billion and we can make money. Oops.
Whoops.
And Diamond Sports Group wrote in a release that it, quote, intends to use the 30-day grace period to continue progressing its ongoing discussions with creditors and other key stakeholders. Let me spell that out for you. Oops, we're screwed. We don't have money.
Can we, can I give you an IOU?
It reminds me of the SpongeBob episode, IOU. But
Or Peter Griffin, episode of Family Guy where he has the tab.
it's basically IOU. Sorry, I don't have it right now, but if you give me like a year, I'll get it to you, no problem. I don't know. They're talking about financial restructuring now with Diamond Sports Group and Sinclair. How many times are these companies going to restructure? Restructuring is basically diluting everybody to pay the debt.
Nick, there's only one thing that I have left to say about this.
What? Oh, I didn't even pull. Well, you have that one. It's every game show reference. Hey, Johnny would have been excited if we did this if he was here.
Nick, I actually think you need to save the loser horn for this next thing. So remember, you know what you could be mad about with Rob Manfred?
What?
That the Manfred Man is here to stay. Runner on second in every extra inning in the regular season.
This is not the only one, so I'm not going to waste it yet. But yeah, so MLB permanently adopting automatic runner rules. Again, regular season, not the postseason. I'm kind of not happy about it, to be honest. Like, we're taking all the fun out of the game once it hits extra innings.
Because just for convenience, because I want to go home. I want to do something else. Because you're clearly not a real baseball fan.
Well, no, this is Rob Manfred saying, "Oh, our games are too long. Maybe this is the way to fix it." Nope.
I gotta be with the kids. Gotta be with the cool kids again. We're cool.
You're not cool. You're not cool. You don't know. You couldn't even spell the word cool. Rob Manfred spells it Koll, like Cool in the Gang.
No, he spells it Kewl. Ewell.
Oh God! I just saw something interesting come up in the news. I'll leave it for the end of the show. But yeah, this is a problem. We're trying to make the game more hip so that younger people will watch it.
And you're failing in that. Again, you're failing in that. And with these rules, Nick, you're turning on your 65 and deaf audience. So, who you winning, Rob? You're not winning anybody.
I'll tell you what you're winning.
Look at all the failure.
That's what you're winning. The award of failure.
So there are more rules that are being implemented now, are there, Nick?
Yeah, so now they're talking about, unless you're a two-way player, designated as a two-way player, there's stipulations, and I'm see if I can find them, but basically you can't just willy-nilly throw a position player in the pitch.
Because, again, we can't have fun.
We can't have nice things.
Starting in the 2023 MLB season, position players will be restricted to pitch only in situations where their team is leading by 10 or more runs in the ninth inning, their team is losing by 8 or more runs at any time, or the game is in extra innings.
Just great. Great. Or I think there was like an 8 or 10 run rule also.
That's
was
what
one
I
of
said.
Okay. So basically Rob Manfred is telling you how to use your position players. Hey, I don't want them to pitch. My decision. I am the almighty God, Rob Manfred.
Are you saying Rob Manfred sounds like Vince McMahon?
Damn it. I mean, so Jesse Rodgers was... Oh, what were we going to say?
I was going to say, are there any other
So I just pulled up an article from ESPN that Jesse Rodgers, a friend of the show, just wrote for ESPN. This came out a couple days ago. Of all the rules that have been changed. Okay. So you want to hear how the shift is officially being instituted? Because he wrote it out. So let me make sure. At the time a pitch is thrown, all 4 infielders are required to be on the infield dirt or infield grass with 2 on each side of second base. Players will be able to move as soon as the ball leaves the pitcher's hand. What?
Repeat that again for me.
At the time a pitch is thrown, all 4 infielders are required to be on the infield dirt or infield grass, with 2 on each side of second base. Players will be able to move as soon as the ball leaves the pitcher's hand.
So, in other words,
It's freeze tag.
I was going to say, so the minute the ball leaves the pitcher's hand, even though the shift is technically off, they could just...
Well, if the ball's already gone, you're not really moving very far.
Granted. Stupid. You know what, Nick? All of this talk about all these different restrictions is kind of, and the new rules is kind of already angering me. It's very funny that you mentioned how he's like Vince McMahon in a way. It's time, Nick, for the first time. Okay, there we go. For the first time this season, Nick, this season, like baseball season that actually started, I bring out this.
Yes.
XLB.
XLB. Watch, Rob Manfred's going to try and cancel us now because we're going against his product. Ooh. How dare you? But you know what? We're flushing your product down the toilet.
We're doing it. He's doing it himself.
We're helping.
All right, let's get off the Rob Manfred train. So, Nick, let's talk some NBA. Now, what did you say last week? You said that there was no shot in HE double hockey sticks that Kevin Durant was going to be traded during the NBA trade deadline. Well, Nick,
sometimes we just can't have nice things, can we?
1:15 a.m. news dump.
And again, like I explained earlier on at the beginning of the episode, thank God I was awake at 1:15 a.m. Eastern time when this news broke. Because again, what's it like to have a 1:15 a.m. Eastern news dump? Because you thought no one was going to notice when Kevin Durant was going to be traded? That's when you decide to make the news official? Really? And I was like, and I said it last week. Joe Tsai had come out and said, I'm not trading him. We want to build around him. Well, guess we all got fooled on that one.
Yeah. So, actually, Nick, you know what's funny?
What?
If you look at that Suns Nets trade for Durant, it actually is eerily similar to the supposed offer that the Nets turned away from when it came to Kyrie Irving. Because if you remember, it was like Jay Crowder and picks and CP3. So obviously they're not going to get CP3 in this deal, but they did get Crowder as well as Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and 4 future unprotected first-round picks.
Yeah, I mean, the picks are nice, and they got a pick swap, I think, in 2028 also.
They got Crowder, so you still got Crowder. Even
but he's gone. No, they already traded him.
Oh, that's right. They did trade him.
They traded him to Milwaukee for 5 second-round picks.
Yeah, they did that flip. That's right. They did. My apologies. I forgot about that flip.
No. There was a lot of movement going on at the deadline. I mean,
Cal Bridges and Cam Johnson, however, do remain with the team.
wasn't it true Cam Johnson was the one who just got fined for that weird incident also?
Was it the
On TV, on TNT?
I'd say the no homo comment?
Yes. Which, by the way, do better, NBA. Please.
Oh, that was no, not Cam Johnson. That was Cam Thomas.
Oh, Cam Thomas. Fine. NBA, do better. I'm so tired. No homo. Really?
How are you feeling? A week later, how are you feeling?
Well, you can back me up. I said this last week. Kyrie Irving had to go. Kyrie Irving had to go. He was done. To be honest, I don't know how an NBA team keeps picking him up and thinking they're going to make him have his come to Jesus moment. Sorry. I know he's religious like that. But
I Let me just put it. Let me just answer my question this way for myself, Nick. I feel like even though we had that incident during the summertime where Durant had requested out, and there's all this, are either of them going to stay or are they going to go? Is Steve Nash going to get fired and such? It's like, you know, I just had a bad feeling inside that even though they kind of tried to say in summertime, that statement from Cy basically saying everybody's on the same page, it felt inevitable that even all these months later, we were going to end up where we end up. It goes appropriately with like SB Nation or Secret Base's collapse videos where eventually everybody does go away. And now look, there's no Nash, there's no Durant, there's no Kyrie.
I mean, you could also throw Harden into that mix from.
Ben Simmons is the only one left.
That's not the guy I thought would be left after this whole mess. And who knows? He could get traded too. Well, or in the offseason, he could get traded. But you know what? Kevin Durant, and I told you I was going to be nasty about Kevin Durant. You knew this was coming.
Oh, hang on. Did you say you're
No. Don't make me solo. Don't make me solo.
No. I wasn't going to do that. I was going to do that. Floor is yours, though.
So here's the deal. Kevin Durant will never be a leader. Okay? Never be a leader. He's been a follower his whole NBA career. With OKC, he was never a leader. It was always him and James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Now we see the disaster that's caused. When he was with Golden State, when he decided to be a traitor to OKC to go, when you lose to the competition, go be with them. Steph Curry was always the leader of that team. If that team doesn't have Steph Curry, Kevin Durant doesn't win a title at all. Okay? So that's two. With Brooklyn, I don't think he was a leader at all. I think it was either Kyrie, who was a point guard, which is as scary as that sounds, or it was whoever the head coach, whether it was Steve Nash or now Jacques Vaughn. KD was never a leader. KD was either hurt or causing social media issues, yelling at people, getting angry at people, tweeting at people. Okay? So Kevin Durant has never been a leader. He'll always be a follower. And guess what? I'm going to throw another one at you, okay?
Okay.
In my book, Kevin Durant has 0 titles. 0 titles.
I don't know if I can say that.
He hasn't led a team. If it wasn't for Steph Curry, like I said, he doesn't win the titles that he wins at all.
But he has the titles, Nick. Unfortunately or unfortunately, he has the titles.
I'm always going to say he has 0 because he didn't prove anything. Okay? He's going to say, well, it's my team. I deserve it.
Now, that I will agree with you. That was Steph's team. It will always be Steph's team.
Steph was the captain, the leader, the Voyager, everything. Like I said, they do not win in Golden State without Steph Curry. And even Klay Thompson, for that matter. And if you want to throw Draymond Green, who plays aggressive defense and leads that team up and down the court, I would take those 3 before Kevin Durant on that team. Kevin Durant was the scorer. Okay? He could score, he could rebound. But then he got hurt with that Achilles injury at the end of that Golden State series, and that was basically the end of him, health-wise. And then Brooklyn said, oh, we're desperate. We're going to go sign him. And then they said, oh, we'll give him another extension. Oops.
Which leads me to my next question, Nick. If we're talking about all these people, all these pieces disappearing after all the hype, that, and within the few short years it's already done, and Simmons, well, who knows what's next to him. Does Sean Marks go this offseason?
I think he's going to get some leeway because, again, this was more on Tasai, who made all these moves when they brought everybody in.
I was going to say, Nick, because I feel bad for him only because if he does not ball out in the 2019 offseason and sign KD and Kyrie,
he's probably out then.
I was going to say, I think he actually loses his job sooner.
And by the way, Kevin Durant calling out Sean Marks and blaming this on him. Give me a break. This is not Sean Marks' problem. It's the players on the court.
You two, because I could have sworn those two were a package deal that they were going to come together, basically.
Yes, and this was the knock on Kevin Durant, that he was only going to go wherever Kyrie Irving is gone. Because again, Kevin Durant can't be his own human being.
And again, I know Kyrie was a head case, and you could have said it's a bad move before then, but we didn't know there was going to be a COVID pandemic. We didn't know that he was going to, be very anti-vax. We didn't know that the anti-Semitic comments were going to come.
His issues happened before the vaccine issues. Okay,
but we didn't know how bad it was going to get.
well, the way I explain it to people is the COVID situation only exacerbated the situation with Kyrie Irving. He was already causing issues. He was missing team meetings. He was going off to places. I mean, this happened in Boston when he was putting Curry around the courts. I mean, and then the whole thing with the
fans in Boston
flipping off the fans in Boston in a net uniform of all places, and the anti-Semitic comments, which I talked about last week, or basically saying Nick Friedel dehumanized him during the press conference. There's a whole list. And that's why he had to go. He lost his deal with Nike, for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm.
But in my opinion, Kevin Durant's won 0 titles. And you know what? Kevin Durant will come after me on social media like he does with everybody else. Go after that guy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, to go out and win something. You're with the Suns now. You're with CP3. You're with Devin Booker. You're with DeAndre Ayton. You better go win a freaking title.
I was going to say, I'd say there's some pressure on the Suns now to win.
And by the way, guess what? He's not the leader on that team either. CP3 is the leader of that team. Devin Booker is a leader on that team. KD is 3 at best. And if they win a title, Kevin Durant's going to try to take credit for that too.
Let's talk about another trade, Nick. Let's get you off the anger pedestal. We only have a couple more stories. A 4-team NBA trade, Nick, that nearly collapsed, all because of a physical involving Gary Payton.
Yeah, so, and again, I'm going to have to play the rules police because people don't understand this. So, NBA trade deadline comes, I think it's on, what was it, on the 9th?
Yeah.
I think. And I think it's either 3 or 4 p.m. Eastern time. I couldn't remember which. I think it's 3 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, either way.
So, trade happens. Then Gary Payton has injury issues and he's taking painkillers and all this stuff. Gary Payton the second, just so we don't confuse in case people don't see, because you wrote Gary Payton, not Gary Payton the second. I don't know. Some people forget in the NBA. But he's hurt and they don't really disclose it, so to speak. So now the trade comes up and now there's issues. And now the Warriors have to figure out, do they want to keep the trade or do they want to dismantle the trade and say, we're done? Like the whole trade falls apart. People out there are saying, well, why don't you just interchange the pieces? No, you can't interchange the pieces. The deadline passed. So the NBA gave an extension for the trade just to determine if the medicals work out. Can they make the trade happen? So Golden State went through with the trade, and they said, we're taking the trade. That's it. You can't interchange the pieces, because I think James Wiseman was traded to Detroit, if I'm not mistaken, which I don't know. They gave up on him pretty quick. But that's all. It was a complicated 4-team trade, which they had to figure out. That's pretty much it.
All right. One last story. I can't believe this is the last story. This should be much higher on the list, but just to group everything together. New Mexico State has canceled the rest of its men's basketball season after hazing allegations. Actually, yeah, let me specify. It's men's basketball season.
Yeah, I was going to say we better make sure we clarify that.
The women's basketball season is still going on. So New Mexico State, unfortunately, this is the second time in about 3 months that it has found itself in some unfortunate headlines. You had back in November where there was a shooting incident involving one of its players. I forget the name of the player. Basically got lured. Oh, Mike Peake. Mike Peake got lured over to the New shot and killed a New Mexico student by the name of Brandon Travis. Travis, two friends with a 17-year-old female, reportedly had lured. I'm reading from the local report that lured Peak over to the University of New Mexico campus versus New Mexico State one, and tried to assault him. Peak had a gun and shot and killed one of the people who lured him. And now we've got some hazing allegations, which has led to a police report over at New Mexico State. And supposedly sexual contact and harassment were allegedly involved.
Do we not learn from first instances when something goes down in a college campus that you decide to do this shit?
Actually, in an update of 24 hours before we started recording, Nick, Greg Hyar, the coaching staff of New Mexico State men's basketball got placed on administrative leave.
Paid leave.
Greg Hyar has been fired.
Wow. So the head coach actually got fired. Wow.
The head coach, Greg Hyar, is fired.
Which tells me that this is a lot more serious than we're getting all the pieces of the story for.
The president of the university came out with a statement. Your no hazing has no place on campus. An unidentified player filed a report with on-campus police alleging multiple incidents of hazing involving at least 3 other members of the team. The player told police in the most recent incident on February 6th, cover your ears if you are, you don't want to hear anything about this. If you have children around, cover the ears.
Yeah.
3 players had held him down in the men's locker room, removed his clothing, and struck his buttocks. According to notes in the incident report, the player said he, quote, had no choice but to let this happen because it's a 3-on-1 type of situation. The player told police he did not want to press charges, though the incident reports list harassment, criminal sexual contact, and false imprisonment as possible charges.
What the hell is wrong with these athletes? What is this? Oh, I'm a college athlete. I have all the power in the world. I'll just do whatever the hell I want. You just had an incident on campus with a gun.
Well, not on their campus. It
Well,
involved players.
All right, you had one of your athletes involved in a situation which you're already in the headlines. You really think that was a genius idea to get into another issue?
Which you already were in the headlines for, because I'd say, well, obviously the incidents, but you also supposedly according to reports, allegedly tried to cover up some of the evidence of the shooting.
Oh, great. So you add that to the charges as well.
The season had to be canceled. The season had to be canceled.
And I think, like you said, it said New Mexico State University policy strictly prohibits hazing in all forms, and it's something we simply do not tolerate. If you don't tolerate it, why don't you prevent it from happening?
I mean, Nick, unfortunately, this is not just a thing that, you're saying, oh, why not prevent it from happening? Nick, I think you and I both are smart to know that this is not just going on in New Mexico State. This is...
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. And until we change the culture of hazing when it comes to...
College athletes?
Yeah, and hazing college athletes, it's never going to go away.
I mean, it still makes me go back to the prior incident we talked about with the punk god.
Yeah, granted that happened at San Diego State or whatever that was. But and that wasn't a hazing incident so much, it was, allegations of rape. But if we don't change the culture of college athletes when it comes to that stuff, when it comes to hazing, I mean, things like this are just going to continue to happen.
And like you said, a few hours before because a letter had come out about this whole thing, it says Shahar Lazar and Kent Alwire announced on social media they were leaving the team also.
I mean, here's what I'm going to say, Nick. I feel bad for the kids who weren't involved in this kind of stuff because their basketball season had just basically been ruined by this and by the Mike Peake incident from November. But unfortunately, it's one of those things that just had to be done. That the program just cannot continue on this season. It's best at this point. It's best at this point if the program just that takes ends the season early and then just tries again.
Right.
Next season.
Right. And it's a weird, unfortunate situation the way this turned out. Already having one incident where we said Mike Peake killed a student. And then you have this whole hazing incident. There's not much else you can really say except shut the program down and be done for the year. There's not much else you can really do. That's it.
No. Unfortunate way to end this. However, Nick, you said there's a bit of news that developed as we were recording this.
Yeah, so let me grab it because I couldn't believe it. So there's news.
Am I gonna be ticked? Am I gonna be happy? Is it neutral?
You might be surprised. I wouldn't say like ticked.
Okay.
So Sean Payton is putting together his staff for the Broncos.
Yes.
Now, Rex Ryan has emerged as a top candidate to join Sean Payton as a defensive coordinator.
Wait, Rex Ryan.
Yes,
From the
Rex
Jets.
Ryan. Rex Ryan.
From the Mark Sanchez, the Sanchez days.
Yeah, he hasn't coached in 7 years.
Mr. Foot Fetish.
Yes, with the tattoos.
The ride never ends. And that's going to do it for episode 172 of Empty the Bench. No, let them play out. Let them play out.
This has been one hell of an episode, I'll tell you that much.
So, one last time today, go like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at ETV Sports across social media, and the network at ETV Network. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. So that way you get every ETV episode, every Game On episode, every Fruity Cereal show, MMA Outsiders, 5 More Minutes Mom, so much more, Living Life. I guess the other programs that are in the works, whether they be new or returning.
Yeah, well, I could say it. The Hearst Show is returning to the network April 13th. Yeah.
So, very happy about that. So, yeah, you want to be in the know. And thank you to everybody who has been subscribing. Up to 241 last time I checked.
42.
Very happy. 242. All right. Hey, keep it going. Hopefully, one of these days we get to 1,000. So, till then, ring the bell.
Ring the bell. If you don't ring the bell, I'm going to come to your house. I'm going to have to do something.
Okay, I'm gonna end the show on that threat right there. So, I'm Albano. We'll see you next week on Empty the Bench. Take care, everybody.
Good night, everybody. I'll try not to fall off my chair.